Welcome, Lauren.
All right. Thank you, Erin. Everyone needs a hype girl like Erin. She makes me feel good. I'm so glad to be here. And we're doing this presentation tonight, Developing a Growth Mindset. I'm an elementary school counselor at Jenks East Elementary, and this has been my guidance lesson all month as I've go into every third and fourth grade classroom. And I love it, just getting the kids in the mindset of you can do tough stuff. When you make mistakes, that's proof you're doing hard things. It's not about being better than everybody else. It's about being the best version of yourself, always changing and growing and stopping this whole mentality of comparing ourselves to everyone else around us. So I really wanted to start the school year strong this year. So it's been really fun and really inspiring. I'm a school counselor, like I said, at East Elementary. I also have been teaching parenting classes forever. Gosh, it's been over 20 years. And I love this whole idea of partnerships because that's what I do too. So, like the fact that City of Tulsa is partnered with Oklahoma Family Network and Family Children Services and Counseling Recovery Services. We have Family Children Services and Counseling Recovery Services with embedded therapists at my school. There's just so many different um, people that are trying to help. So I'm really excited that mental health is taking a good growth step in the city of Tulsa. So that's a little bit about my background. And I always like to try to provide you with information that's going to be practical and useful that you can use not just for your kids, but also for yourself. And this entire presentation will be emailed to you. So any of the video links in it and everything, you can look at those as well. We won't even play all the video links that are embedded in the presentation because then we would take 3 hours, which I would love, but I don't think you want to do 3 hours on a weeknight. But that gives you a chance to really dig into it afterwards. I'll also send a whole bunch of extra links to different resources and things like that. So hopefully that will be helpful. All right, so growth mindset. This has been a really big growth area in education, especially. And so I did not know about growth mindset when my kids were growing up. So I have three grown sons. They're now 23, 26, and 28 years old. But I heard and learned about growth mindset now with that I've been able to use that with my daughter. So my daughter, I have a 14-year-old eighth grader still at home. So what is a mindset? A mindset's just your belief about yourself, about your ability, your personality, your talent. Your mindset without even we don't really often take the time to think about how do I think about this stuff. So that's what tonight's going to kind of slow us down. And in this area of growth mindset, there's so many great books out there, so many great videos. It really ties to this reality that your brain is like a muscle. When we train our muscles, if we're working out, you don't, if you want to get faster and stronger, you don't do everything that's easy. If you want to get faster and stronger, you're willing to push yourself, put in some effort, experience difficulty. And that effort, that resistance, that difficulty, that will actually make your muscles grow and change. It's been proven that the same thing happens in your brain. If we want our brain to grow, if we want to strengthen connections, practice and perseverance and sticking with things even when they are difficult, that's what actually makes our brain grow, not doing things that are easy all the time. So that's a big key thing when I'm working with children and reminding myself, hey, when you're doing tough stuff, you're growing your brain. It's even helped me change how I talk about stuff with kids at school. I'm a school counselor. I'm typically being called to help kids who are struggling. Either they're emotionally struggling, they're giving up, they're throwing fits, they don't want to do stuff, they're avoiding work, and really slowly starting to change their mindset of, oh man, this is hard for you. Ooh, your brain's growing. Man, I wonder what's going on in that brain of yours. This is awesome. Trying to get them excited about the struggle is a huge thing because your brain is like a muscle. Now, we all have a mindset, whether we realize it or not. So, a growth mindset kind of shows up when things get tough. This is a belief that intelligence and talent can go up or down based on effort. It's not fixed, it's not set from birth. A fixed mindset kind of has this feeling or mindset that um, intelligence and talent are fixed at birth. You're either good at it or you're not good at it. You're either athletic or you're not athletic. You're either good at math or you're not good at math. Now, what I also want to make sure you understand is I'm not saying that some people don't already have some body types or the way their brain is wired that does make them more naturally inclined to do better at certain things. We've all heard of people who are left brained and right brained, creative types and logical types. So, yes, there's definitely some core structural things that might make you more inclined to be athletic, even right down to the kind of muscles that you have, fast twitch muscles or endurance muscles. But fixed mindset, it's kind of like, well, I'm not good at that. I wasn't born good at that. Growth mindset would be no matter where I start, I can continue to improve or get better, but that is with effort. And you'll find for yourself and for your kids that you can have a growth mindset in some areas and a fixed mindset in others. So it can be a little bit mixed. For me, being a parent has really created, number one, tons of opportunities for struggle, but it's also created a different kind of motivation. So, and when I was going through grad school to be a therapist, I had a different kind of motivation as I was learning about all these different things and taking all these different surveys. I thought to myself, oh, well, how can I be a good therapist if I'm struggling in this area? I need to really heal and grow and change in these different areas so that I can be a better therapist. Oh, if I'm telling my children, you can do anything that you set your mind to, well, do I actually believe that for myself? So, for all of this, it starts with you. It starts with how you approach things when things get difficult. It starts with you realizing what your mindset is. Personally, I thought I had a growth mindset because I am good at a lot of things in that, I'm very curious. I love to read. I was always, a fast learner and those kinds of things. But as I look back and analyze my history of what do I do when things get difficult, especially in the area of academics or job, I tend to only like to do stuff that I'm already good at. I didn't think that was a fixed mindset because I was good at a lot of things. So it was been a real continued growth process for me personally, which only helps me with my own children. And it's really interesting to me to see my grown children, how they inspire me as well. So, all right. So here's some insight into what kind of mindset you might have. If you have a growth mindset when things get tough, this is kind of the way that we think. All right, I got to move some of these things out of the way so you can see. Well, number one, I can learn anything I want to. When I'm frustrated, I persevere. I want to challenge myself. When I fail, I'm learning. I don't look at failure as I'm a failure. It's, oh, I'm learning. Tell me I try hard. And this was a big one for me. This was a big eye opener for me. If someone else succeeds, I'm inspired. Well, that's not actually how I used to think. If someone else succeeded, it made me feel bad about myself. Well, why can't I be like that? Someone with a growth mindset, they're inspired by other people's successes. I didn't want other people to fail, but I would immediately go into comparison mode. So, if with a true growth mindset, someone else's success, that's a huge inspiration. I'm always pointing that out to kids too. Hey, you can actually celebrate the people around you and their successes, even if they're succeeding in something that you're still struggling in. Now, a fixed mindset might have these kinds of thoughts. I'm either good at it or I'm not. When I'm frustrated, my tendency is to give up. When I fail, I feel like I'm no good. I don't like to be challenged. Tell me I'm smart. If you succeed, sometimes it can make me feel threatened. So, seeing those descriptions, you might think to yourself, what kind of mindset do I have? And like I said before, sometimes in certain situations, you'll have a growth mindset, while in others, you might have a fixed mindset, kind of a combination. For me, I did have growth mindset in some areas and fixed mindset in others. And with my awareness, I'm more often growth mindset in more areas than I used to be. So, but again, I'm still changing and growing. Now, growth mindset really begins what we do what do we do when things become difficult? And this is what I tell the kids, and I've told them all month in my guidance lessons. Guys, when things are going great, you're fine. You're not frustrated. You're happy. You're feeling pretty good. This really shows up when things get tough, when you can't do something quickly, when you don't understand something, when your teacher has just done a new math lesson and you're overwhelmed, or you maybe for us adults, maybe something is happening in our personal lives and it's just feeling overwhelming when we really thought things were going great. Maybe our child is giving us an extra struggle and we really thought things were going well and we are such awesome parents. And then now my child is struggling. Is that proof that I'm not an awesome parent? Nope. It's just proof their struggle. there's an opportunity for growth. So think about some of our heroes. I don't know if you guys recognize this guy. And I just, again, I haven't verified whether or not it's true. I just saw a really cool Facebook thing about um, this guy, Thomas Edison. So Thomas Edison, apparently, it may or may not be true, as not everything on Facebook is true. But when he was young, he got sent home from school with a letter, and he was told to give the letter to his mother. And the mother opens the letter and she's so excited. And he's like, "What does it say? What does it say?" And the mom said, "It says that you are so brilliant and so amazing that the school doesn't know what to do, so they need me to teach you." So he was like, okay. And so she worked with him and all that. She taught him from home. When he went through her stuff, when she died, he found that letter. And what the letter actually said is, "Your child is terrible. Your child's not smart. We don't have a space for him at our school." So it was a very negative thing. The mom refused to acknowledge that and took that challenge. And because of her mindset, it prevented him from giving up on stuff. Again, that could be a hoax. I don't know, but it's certainly inspiring. He is known to say this, though, because he invented the light bulb, Thomas Edison, but he had, oh my gosh, so many failures. And he had this different way of approaching a failure. Hey, I've not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. That was kind of his mindset, which kept him from giving up on his experiment. Taylor Swift, she is, you might be a Swiftie, you might be like, "Oh, I love it when I show this picture in class because half the class just moans and half the class just squeals." But Taylor Swift, she used an image of herself as a child to help people realize she'd been doing music for a really long time before she experienced commercial success. It did not happen overnight. We look at her and her Eras tour and the fact that she's the first billionaire in self-made billionaire in the music industry. I could have some of those statistics incorrect. But we look at her now at the pinnacle of her success and forget her, performing at the town fairs and, doing little talent shows at school and all that kind of stuff, where she didn't always get positive feedback. Michael Phelps winning all of his gold medals, us having just experienced an Olympics, and having our new heroes that the kids are inspired by. Kids, when they're looking at stuff, they're seeing people at the pinnacle of their career. They don't know about all the tough stuff. So I hear kids all the time when I say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" They're like, "I'm be in the NBA. I'm going to be a professional baseball player." Or the most common one is, "I'm going to be a professional YouTuber, a professional video gamer." Do you guys ever hear that one? Yeah, I hear that one all the time. I haven't had a kid tell me, "I don't need school because I'm going to be I'm going to design video games." I said, "Yeah, man, when you design video games, man, you really got to know some math." "No, I don't." I'm like, "Yeah, programming, it's computer, it's code. There's so many things you have to learn." And in his mind, I'm just going to instantly overnight, become this famous, successful YouTuber and, program the next Mario Brothers game or whatever. So that's how kids often think. And so as parents, number one, we don't want to rob them of their heroes, but we don't only want to be pointing to the people who are super, super successful. We want to point out the stories of people who've struggled, the struggle it took for them to get there. And it's almost like this zigzag mountain. Everyone's more interested in the mountaintop experience and think, "Oh, this just happened." Nope. The reality is success is all the zigzag climbing, setbacks, all that kind of stuff before you reach that mountaintop. Now, this is a video that I won't show you simply because, for the lack of time, but these are two videos that I want you to go back and watch, because these are the kinds of videos that I'm showing kids at school. So one of them was about Ezra Frick. So Ezra Frick, this first video was him when he was a 9-year-old. And I tell the kids when they watch it, I said, "I want you to listen to his mindset. Listen to how he talks about struggle." And he was born with a leg deformity, so they had to amputate one of his legs. He was also born with only one finger on a hand, and then had one of the toes from his amputated leg put onto his hand. So he learned to, with physical therapy, learn to be able to grasp stuff. But he talks about how much harder he has to work. And when he gets frustrated, he thinks about all the things he has. So I show this video to the kids, and they're all like, "Wow." And I'm like, "Guys, I'm working with third and fourth graders. They're 9 years old. There's 8, 9, and 10-year-olds in the classes that I'm teaching." And they're like, "Whoa." And then I show them the next video. So this is Ezra. Oops. So Ezra, Now is 19 years old. He just got back from the Paralympics and won 2 gold medals. So for them to see him as a 9 year old, and I said, listen to how he's still talking. He's still talking about my confidence comes from my preparation. No one's outworking me. And I tell them, I'm like, does he say my confidence comes from being better than everybody else? They're like, no. I said, that's right. That's not where his confidence comes from. That's not where your confidence has to come from either. You don't have to be better than everybody else. You just have to work hard, work hard, work hard. And then I say this thing, and the teachers always smile when I said it. I said, guess what, guys? Some of you really struggle with math. Let me ask you, do you think it's more important when you're an adult to be able to do super, super hard math? Or do you think it's more important as an adult to be able to know how to work really hard? And half the kids are like, math. I'm like, nope. I said, what's really important is for you to know how to work really hard. Because if you know how to work hard, then you can get better at anything with effort. Now, it might not ever be as easy for you as maybe for the person sitting at your table, but with effort, you can get better at everything. So I highly recommend if you've got kiddos at all, or if you need a little inspiration, there's so many great videos about the Paralympics, which are the Olympic Games for people with disabilities. The most wonderful, inspiring stories. Thank goodness they had a growth mindset. Thank goodness their parents had a growth mindset. Because any parent would have been like, oh, my child doesn't have a leg, he can't play sports. Thank goodness they didn't think that. So that's the kind of difference that a growth mindset can make. All right. So other ways that growth mindset and fixed mindset are different. So I'm going to give you a little more background and then we're going to jump into, Lauren, what can I do at home? All right. So a fixed mindset tends to be more focused on performance goals. I've got a particular goal in mind. I either achieve the goal or I don't achieve the goal. Mistakes or loss are looked at as failures, not as any, just temporary setbacks. It's just failure. And there's increased anxiety and frustration because what if they didn't reach a goal? So if like the boy that we were just looking at that video of, Ezra Frick, he made the Olympic team as a 16-year-old. He didn't win a single gold medal. What if he looked at that and said, oh, I'm not cut out for the Paralympics? He would have just quit. But that would be a fixed mindset. You're so focused on a specific goal that if you don't make that goal, forget all the hard work that you put into that. That is where the frustration and the anxiety come from. A growth mindset, children want to find out more. They want to play to the best of their abilities. They realize mistakes are a part of the learning process. It's about the process, not the end goal. Now, again, I know, and I hear this all the time from parents, and I hear it from teachers, and I hear it from, I see it in the news and I see it on social media that everyone's like, well, we can't just have a society where everyone wins a trophy. That's not what this is. This is showing that hard work, effort, pushing ourselves through struggle, that process is incredibly valuable, incredibly valuable. And so as you look at these kinds of things, where do you maybe fall on this? Do you tend to set performance goals for yourself or for your children? Or do you tend to set learning goals? Measurable, I'm making measurable progress towards a goal. All of that can be really change our mindset. So this is great. What can I do at home? Number one, it starts with you. So I feel like you being aware of your own mindset, you learning to challenge and stick through stuff and persevere and watch how we even talk to ourselves can be a really, really powerful thing. There's also very specific things that you can do at home. First off is develop a language that regularly promotes growth mindset. We're going to talk about some of those words and what that sounds like. Display stories around the home that promote a growth mindset. So me showing videos of Ezra Freck, that promotes a growth mindset to third and fourth graders at my school because that's a story that they can relate to. There's so many themes in literature and in kids' books of kids who are going through hard stuff and then they overcome. My daughter is rereading Harry Potter for the third time. So she really loves the series. But I mean, the character of Harry Potter, what a growth arc. He starts struggling in an orphan and then winds up, saving everything. So having those kinds of stories, picking up on those themes in movies or things that you see can be really powerful. Kids are constantly wanting to watch YouTube, use media to your advantage and that you can find some inspiring videos and inspiring stories and things like that that can really be great. Um, Mental contrasting, we'll kind of learn what that is in a minute. This whole idea of marvelous mistakes. You really, I'll be honest, if you take nothing away from tonight except marvelous mistakes, which we'll talk about in a minute, that will be a very important starting point for change. Huge for yourself and for your kids. Learning to break things down into manageable steps. That will be helpful. Focus on effort, the hard work, even changing how we encourage our kids, not praise based on results, but praise based on effort. Even how you encourage your kids can develop or get in the way of a growth mindset. Don't avoid difficult stuff. I mean, I know it's just in my nature to not like to see struggle. I mean, I want to make things, I want to nurture, I want to comfort, I want to do those things. And being okay with letting our kids struggle, realizing that there's so much learning and growth going on, realizing that when our kids are making mistakes or we're in one of those really not so fun seasons of life where nothing seems to be going well, that is where most of the growth is happening. If you think back on your own life, when have you grown the most? When everything was perfectly wonderful? Probably not. And also helping our kids listen to and change their inner voice. Well, we might be making a lot of this effort externally and in the environment of our home, and how we talk to ourselves and to our kids or to the people that we work with. How can we help our kids pick up on their inner voice so that they're internalizing this? All right. So step one was have growth mindset language. These are fantastic words to be sprinkling in to your conversations. Effort, challenge, it's a process, good thinking, learning, decisions, persistence, resilience, the power of yet. I can't do that yet. Trial and improvement, good mistakes or even marvelous mistakes. Man, that showed some grit. That was a useful failure. What did we learn from that? You're making some great growth. Feedback, this whole idea that failure is feedback. Feedback is just showing you areas that we need to change and grow so we can get it right the next time. Reflection, taking the time to look back and reflect on what happened. Mistakes, marvelous mistakes, determination, perseverance. These are all kinds of words to be sprinkling in, not only to our everyday vocabulary, but when we're talking to the kids, when we're talking to ourselves. Man, you really showed some grit there. Man, I know, like my sister just sent me a news article from my nephew, her senior in high school son. So they had a football game this weekend, and my nephew just started playing football last year. So typically, you don't start that sport when you're a junior in high school. So now he's a senior. They lost 40 to nothing in this game. And the article was what the coach was saying about my nephew. And he's like, he played like we were 1 point away from winning. He goes, the effort that he put in when he assigned him a task to try to keep up with the guy that kept scoring. And my nephew never stopped. He gave it 100,000%, even though it literally was statistically impossible for them to ever make up the deficit. They knew they were going to lose. He kept at it the whole time. And the way that the coach was talking about him in the article, he was so proud of him and he was so encouraged. And they just lost embarrassingly 40 to nothing. That's the kind of language that you can work into your vocabulary when you're looking at things and reflecting on things, what the things that you're pointing out. This other idea of mental contrasting, this is a skill set. Again, kids with their undeveloped, well, not, I shouldn't say undeveloped, I should say not fully developed brains, because they have developed brains, they're just not fully developed. A lot of times they just have this dream, this goal. I'm going to be in the NBA. I'm going to play piano. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make 100 on my test. Da, 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 da. Excuse me. I had pneumonia a couple weeks ago. I apologize. So this idea of mental contrasting is where we start to work in the if then. Oh, that's an awesome idea. So if you want to play piano, then you should practice every night. You can start to have them fill in the blank. If you want to get higher marks on your math test, then you should practice your math once in the morning and once in the evening. We have this really cool curriculum that we use at our school. I'm going to put this in the chat section. It's the Stephen um, Covey, um, 8 Habits of, I think it's Healthy Kids. I forget if the book is Happy Kids or Healthy Kids. So there was a book back in the 80s and 90s, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, that Stephen Covey wrote. Well, they took that and they made it into a curriculum for schools to use. So the habits are things like put first things first, do your work before your play. One of the habits, habit two, is begin with the end in mind. So the end is, where do you want to get to? What's your goal? All right. Now I'm going to begin back here with that end in mind. So if I want to reach this goal, then I need to do da 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 to make it towards that goal. The beautiful thing is every bit of progress gets you closer to the goal. You might only get halfway there and really truly reach. That's as far as you can go. Hey, you're still further than you were when you started. If you know what the end is that you have in mind, you're willing to do some of this tough work because you know what waits at the end. So that's the idea of mental contrasting. If you want to do this, then you want to do that. You kind of have to coach that into kids because trust me, kids want to be superstars. And I laugh. My daughter, I'll reference my daughter and one of my sons a lot. They have given me permission to reference them. When my daughter first started soccer, she used to play with her brothers in the backyard. So she joined her first soccer team when she was in first grade. She went to the first practice and it was so bad. She was so awful. Her attitude was so awful. She thought she was going to march out there and she was going to be the best player on the team because she was used to actually doing really well on things. And these girls have been playing together since pre-K. So they'd already had pre-K 2 seasons, kindergarten 2 seasons. They're now in first grade. She went out there and because she couldn't do everything she thought she should be able to, she crossed her arms, sat down, and pouted in the middle of the field, would not listen to the coach. Talk about an embarrassing moment as a mother. Well, my husband is the one who took her to the class, to the practice, told me all about it. He videotaped it. So I sat with her and I'm like, started with empathy. We watched the videos of her sitting down and throwing a fit. I'm like, okay, man, what were you thinking here? It looks like you were really frustrated. Okay, what were you frustrated about? She's like, well, I couldn't do it. And then I'm like, yeah, that would be really frustrating. Now, if you want to get better, then what do you think you need to do? So I always start with that empathy, but I had to coach her. Yeah, if you want to be better and expect to be better, then you do have to put in the hard work. She had a very fixed mindset because she was so naturally good at so many things. So mental contrasting, really great. And again, if there's nothing you take away, eyes open, pay attention to this part. Marvelous mistakes, marvelous mistakes. If we could change our mind about mistakes and what they actually are, it would be amazing. I even say this in my discipline classes. I teach parenting classes. And when we're talking about consequences, if we could change our mind about misbehavior, what a glorious learning opportunity that would be. Guess what? I would rather my kids make mistakes. Hey, if let's say they have make the mistake of not telling the truth a lot. Now I know what we need to work on. If I didn't catch them not telling the truth, then how would I know what they still needed to work on? Great opportunity for growth. When our kids make mistakes on things like how they handled their emotions or how they did in math or whether they mispronounced a word or if they lost a game in a sport, mistakes are often thought to be negative. With just a little change in our language and a shift in our adult mindset, we have just gifted our kids fearlessness. If they know it's expected to make mistakes, they're much more willing to try difficult stuff. They're much more willing to make mistakes and not then feel like a failure. If we change our mindset and look at mistakes as growth opportunities, it removes this awful thing that a lot of us have experienced in life, shame. I also have my LPC degree. I was a LPC candidate for a while and just couldn't balance that and school counselor and the other things. So I've set that aside for now. Um, but, you know, more than half, I would say 90% of my work as a therapist was unpacking shame. Shame, shame, shame. I should have done better. I shouldn't have done this. Shame is such preventer of growth. Shame makes you want to hide in the dark. Shame wants to hide our mistakes. Guess what? If we take away the power of shame, the sky is the limit on what we personally can do and what our kids can do too. It makes also, if we have this kind of mindset at home, kids are often more likely to own up to their mistakes. Number one, if they realize that consequences are going to be fair, not rescue them from consequences, but know that the conversation they're going to have is not going to be a big shame fest. How could you do that? I've told you 100 times. What did you do that for? Why? When I change my mindset about mistakes, it's very powerful. So marvelous mistakes are feedback, not failure. Mistakes give us the feedback we need to learn and grow. Now, did I say that we are going to be so excited about mistakes that when our children mess up, we're going to be like, you just made a marvelous mistake? There are some mistakes that our response as a parent is going to be discipline. There are some mistakes that our response as a parent is going to be consequences, and that's okay. But how we talk about it is not, how could you make that mistake? It's, yeah, sometimes it's really hard to control our temper, isn't it? I get that. Man, this really showed that you're struggling with managing your anger, the consequence that goes with them struggling to manage their anger, whatever they have to do for that. But that the dialogue is still open about how can we learn to manage our anger? You know, that man, I know it's really hard to remember to get your chores done. I get that. It can be very easy to be distracted. So, here's the consequence for, not doing our chores, da 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 da. But it keeps the dialogue open on what do we need to do to change and grow. My daughter forgot to do something, and I would say, okay, Lynn, let's think about this. What distracted you from remembering? All right, what could we do? What should we look at? She forgot about an assignment that she had in eighth grade, and she missed half the points on that. She's like, I totally forgot. I said, I get it. You lost those points. That's your consequence. I said, but let's think about that. What could help you not forget? Think about that. And she's like, well, usually I remember. I said, absolutely, you 100% remember. But this is feedback that you don't remember everything. What might be a good rule of thumb to do going into the weekend? And so after our discussion, her agreement was, yeah, I need to check Canvas and double check, because if I missed them saying it or wasn't paying attention at that moment in time, Canvas is going to tell me what my checklist is. So these are great open dialogues. But marvelous mistakes, it's everything. There's a quote. If you went back and fixed all the mistakes you've ever made, you'd erase yourself. We are the culmination of a lot of our mistakes. We're either filled with shame or filled with growth. It's a big difference. Now, what in the world does marvelous mistakes sound like? So at home, if when I know we're going to be doing a challenging activity, I give them permission to make a mistake, it might sound like this. Hey, we're going to learn how to tie your shoes. Man, I expect you to make at least 3 mistakes, maybe more. After you tie your shoes, we're going to look at different ways so that the ways that didn't work, we can learn from those mistakes. Giving them permission to make mistakes makes it easier for them to be willing to try new things. I told the kids in my guidance lessons this month, I'm like, all right, at the end of the lesson, it said, your school year is up to you. It's what you make of it. And I told them, I said, I want you to look at your teacher, right? Look at your teacher right now. And I said, so like I was in Miss Mitchell's class. I'm like, Miss Mitchell, I bet the kids in this classroom are going to make at least 200 mistakes this year at school. And she goes, oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm like, what does that prove? They are doing hard things. Guys, you're going to make at least 200 mistakes this year, at least some of you more. Guess what that means? Your brain has been growing and growing and growing because you are doing hard things. Mistakes prove you are doing hard things. I had a first grade teacher at one of the schools I worked at. I sat on all this growth mindset. Some people take it, some people don't. She went gangbusters with it. And she told the kids, about marvelous mistakes. And I'm going to send you the exact videos. It's a class dojo, has these wonderful little 3 and 4 minute mini videos that are great conversation starters for you and your kids or you and yourself. That she went totally crazy with it. And then in her morning meetings, she would have her kids set a goal for how many marvelous mistakes they were going to make that day. So one little girl might be like, I made 9 marvelous mistakes, Miss Mullins. She's like, oh man, you're going to make 9 mistakes? Your brain is really going to grow today. And she found the whole culture in her classroom changed. So then when they were doing math and someone made a mistake, they'd be like, I made a marvelous mistake. She's like, oh, your brain is growing. Come over. Show me what you did. All right, let's look at it. How can we fix it? All right, what we do differently? Where do you think it went wrong? Aha, you thought 4 + 4 was 9. What's 4 + 4? 8. There we go. We fixed it. Everything was glorious in her room. She was just rainbows and sunshine. She's just such an amazing teacher. But what made her amazing is she didn't shy away from difficult stuff. It's how she talked about that. So again, if you take away nothing else, how you talk about mistakes, for yourself and for the people around you and your children, what a huge difference that will make. All right. So change your language. Marvelous mistakes is a good thing. If they make a mistake on homework, hey, change it. Hey, that was a marvelous mistake. Your brain is really growing, man. You're really doing tough stuff. Let's figure out what we need to change. Congratulate them for working hard. Promote this idea of trial and improvement. If we know we expect them to try things out and make mistakes and then try again, the cost of failure in their minds changes. When I give them permission to make mistakes, it removes the fear. It's a beautiful thing. It can open up. Now, again, there are still some personality types. I mean, my son, my middle son, it was always an anxious child, anxious baby, anxious temperament type. And so it was a little bit harder for him. Um, but I mean, he was always more hesitant than brothers or his sister to jump right into stuff. But even opening up the doors for you're allowed to make mistakes. It's okay. There's helping them catch their own negative self-talk is really important. Reminding them, hey, you get better and better with practice. This is hard, but it'll get easier. That mantra, mistakes are proof you're doing hard things. And I'll give you the story of give your brain a kiss. So I used to do parents as teachers. So I would go into people's homes when for prenatal visits or birth to 3-year-olds. It was through James Public Schools. They have this, I think, Union Public School still has it and all that. It was funded by a grant and all that. Super cool program. I'd go in every month and we do these little visits. So her daughter at this point was about 18 months old. So she could sit up and do, and I brought a simple wooden puzzle, with the 4 shapes where there's like a square, a triangle, a circle, and a rectangle. And she's trying to get these big handled pieces in and she's really sticking with it and all that. And then she gets it. She gets the final piece in, and this little baby girl goes, and I said, what just happened? And the mom's like, oh, she just gave her brain a kiss. And I said, oh, you have to explain this to me. She goes, ever since she was a baby, even, before she could even talk, when she would stick with something that I could tell she was frustrated with, I'd be like, look at you, you didn't give up. You kept trying to crawl. Give your brain a kiss. And the mom would take her little hand, or the mom would give the little one's brain a kiss. And she was always telling her, you did hard stuff. You didn't give up. Way to go. You just made your brain grow. So for every 10 words a child can speak, they understand 50. So even her little itty bitty baby who couldn't understand or speak out words of, I'm going to give my brain a kiss, she understood what that meant through repetition. What if we changed? And this was the challenge I gave all my teachers this year and my students so far in my guidance lessons. Oh man, guys, when you've done something hard, give your brain a kiss. Now, if you start this and you have like a 16 or a 17-year-old at home, they might think you're clinically insane, but it could be something that you start. Um, oh, I do the whole kiss your brain with my kids at work, and even at such a young age, they all love it. Good for you. It's so powerful because it's a habit. It's an encouraging habit that reminds what's actually going on. You just made your brain grow. The struggle isn't the bad thing. The brain growth, man, that's the benefit. All right. Sometimes too, kids have a hard time they might view something as criticism instead of feedback. So a kid with a fixed mindset, if the coach told them to come in early to practice, their mindset might be, well, they told me to come in early to practice. Coach thinks I'm bad at free throws, and they might be right. Maybe you have a kid that's saying this about themselves. Yeah, coach thinks I stink. Coach thinks I'm bad. What if we switch that talking? A growth mindset would look at that same situation. Hey, my coach told me to come in early to practice my free throws. It's probably a good idea because practicing is going to help me get better. You know, failure is feedback. Mistakes are feedback. Coaches love you enough to give you feedback. Parents love our kids enough to give them feedback. Teachers love our students enough to give them feedback. I want you to change and grow. I'm not criticizing you. I'm giving you feedback. So really helping. Now, how many of us have a hard time receiving correction? Yeah, it's feedback. If we can respond without being defensive, what amazing opportunities for growth. So now how you say it does make a difference too. If you walk around all day being like, you need to, oh, there's other ways to say it. So, you're not, I'm just giving you feedback. Yeah, well, the volume of feedback is overwhelming. So, you got to balance things out. All right. Here's another thing that will really help kids with a growth mindset to develop this growth mindset. First off, some things really do feel overwhelming. Learning a new thing truly can feel overwhelming. It can actually, in the brain, feel like a threat. It can activate the amygdala, the fight or flight part of the brain, and make them want to shut down. The brain does not, the brain is curious and it likes challenge, but when something feels overwhelming, it actually feels like a threat, almost like a physical threat. So if we help our kids break a task down into smaller steps, those are manageable steps. Focus on one step at a time, make some progress, and keep reminding everyone we're getting closer to our goal. If I begin with the end in mind, habit 2 and 8 habits of healthy kids, I'm focusing on one step at a time, getting me closer to my goal. Um, Sometimes this is really hard for us as parents. We want our kids to clean your room. Well, cleaning the room can be overwhelming. My grown-up brain still doesn't like to clean the room, but my grown-up brain can be like, okay, to clean my room, I need to first off, I'm going to make the bed. That looks good. I'm going to get all my dirty clothes, get them in the hamper. I'm going to get these things put in a basket so I can hang them up. I can just because I have a fully developed brain, I can break things down into steps. Some of you are brilliant at this. Like your brain thinks like a checklist. Mine doesn't. I have to create checklists so I don't forget that I'm on step 3 because I got distracted and went, and got lost in the kitchen and then I got a snack. But kids, this is hard for them too. So cleaning a room has many steps, putting the toys away. Help them figure this out. All right, guys, we're going to work on cleaning our room. Let's set a timer. In 2 minutes, I want you to think of everything you can do to get that room clean. Write all these things down. Focus on one step at a time. You want them to clean a room? What if one week you focus on making the bed? Week 2, we're making the bed and we're making sure nothing's on the floor. Week 3, we're making the bed, nothing's on the floor, and clothes are hung up. Whatever it is, break it down into manageable steps. At the end of a month, you're going to be a lot further than you were by just yelling at them to clean their room. Kids need help breaking things down into manageable steps. Um, my sister-in-law, she even did something brilliant with her kids. So they would set an academic and a personal goal every day, and not every day, every year at the beginning of the school year. And so with that academic and personal goal, she'd help them and coach them and they brainstorm all the steps that were going to help them reach that goal. And she took it a step further. They'd go back in circles. She said, I want you to circle the things that you're going to need my help with. So if her son wanted to, go faster in the swimming pool because he was on the swim team, he needed to eat more carbs, he needed to do this and, listed all these things. What he needed help with is mom getting, making sure they had extra food at home that he could take to school. But what he needed to do was set his own alarm to get up 15 minutes early. Was it mom's job to get him up 15 minutes earlier? Nope, that was his job. So she would have them circle the things that either that they needed help with or the things that were their job. And as should they do these check-ins and how are we doing towards our goals? It was kind of like their family meetings that they would have, once a week and once a month. Then they would measure how they were working towards their goals. And if they were kind of falling into this, oh, mom, why didn't you do this for me? She'd be like, that's not on my list of things to reach your goal. This is my list of things to help you reach your goal. It was a really good step in developing that mindset. This is a picture I will show to kids who are kind of in shutdown mode. So sometimes they will be, we all want to be up here. Yes, I did it. Yay, victory. Well, there's different steps towards our goal. First off, step is I won't do it. I can't do it. I want to do it. How do I do it? I'll try to do it. I can do it. I will do it. Did it. All of these are steps. So when I've got a kid that's down here on these 2 bottom steps, I'll give them this visual. I'm like, yeah, it feels like a really long way from the purple guy up to the green guy, doesn't it? You're down here, I won't do it. What do you need from me that'll help you get to the I want to? Would help you want to get to the I want to stage. Maybe they need a little incentive. Maybe they need a timer so they know I only have to do this for 10 minutes, whatever it is. But every step is a little closer. Here's what we can often do though. We want them to go from I won't do it to yes, I did it. That's not how things work. We can actually celebrate the fact that they got midway. How do I do it? They're now asking how. Maybe next week they're going to try. And maybe the week after that, they think they can do it and they will do it and they do it. So this is a good visual. And again, this will all be emailed to you. The other thing I like to point out to kids is this idea of the learning pit. To reach higher levels of understanding, you got to conquer the pit. We all will get to at some point in our life to where something we're learning is beyond what we know. And we fall into this pit. It's discouraging, it's frustrating, we don't like it, it's not easy, there's a struggle. But there's levels. There's zero understanding, understanding a little bit, understanding some of it, mostly understand, almost there. Now I understand. Kids want to get from zero understanding up to 10. You can't do that overnight. So sometimes just even having a picture of what that progress looks like can be really powerful. Can be a powerful reminder to us too. We want them to be a 10, they understand when maybe they're at a 4. Okay. If you can have conversations about something like this, where are you at in the pit? I'm at 0. I'm at 4. Help them identify where they're at. Can be really powerful. So that's that whole idea of breaking things down into manageable steps. Now, this is another big thing for developing a growth mindset. Change what we talk about. It is so easy to talk about accomplishments and end results and the A they got here, or the goal they scored, or the win they had, or whatnot. The things that we want to brag about on social media. Did this, or I did that. Effort is the secret to getting smarter. The more effort you put in, the more results you get. And I tell this to the kids, your job is not to compare yourself to everyone at your table group in your classroom. Your job is to, how hard are you working? Now recognize effort with effort praise. This was a big growth area for me. Without even realizing it, I thought I was an encouraging mom. I was really proud of myself because I didn't yell, because I grew up in a yelling household. I didn't yell. And I also was really encouraging. But my praise was often results praise, not effort praise. Here's what growth mindset praise sounds like. Number one, it's if we do this kind of noticing our child's hard work, it also is taking the focus off needing someone on the outside to praise them for what they're doing. All right. So instead of, I'm so proud of you, you're amazing, say things like, hey, I've noticed the effort you're putting into whatever it is. All of your hard work and practice are resulting in progress in this area. I'm keeping the focus on them, their hard work, their progress. You must be proud of how hard you worked on that. Not, I'm proud of how hard you worked on that. You must be really proud of how hard you worked on that. How does that feel? I noticed you were struggling. You didn't give up. That must feel good to stick with it. You made a mistake. That's okay. You can learn from it. Remember, failure's feedback. That was a marvelous mistake. The focus on this is not me, the outside, praising you for what you did, which is what I tended to do. I've had to think about this. This isn't fully habitual yet for me. The other way is habitual for me. This I have to really focus and concentrate on, especially my struggling kids at school. You must be proud how hard you worked on that, man. I really noticed you were about to give up on that math problem and you didn't give up. How does that feel? That's pretty awesome. Focusing on effort. Now, this is the kind of praise that I think most of us do. And it's really nice and it's really thoughtful. But without realizing it, for some kids, this can get them hooked on it, needing the external recognition to feel like they've accomplished anything. You're so clever. You're so intelligent. You're so lucky. You're gifted at this. This is so easy for you. My kids, for the most part, are highly intelligent, pick up on things really quickly. This kind of came naturally for me to do until they all reached a wall. My daughter she's like a little mini perfectionist. I have not put that perfectionism on her, but because she was used to things coming quickly to her, then when things didn't, she would get super frustrated and had a really hard time regulating her emotions. It was so easy to be like, oh, you're so good at that. Things just come so easy for you, that kind of a thought. That's not helping. It didn't help. Have an effort celebration. I think this is hard, especially if you have more than one kid. Is there'll be some kids that excel in other areas. Maybe their siblings don't excel in that area. What if you set WIGs, wildly important goals? Those are goals for those kids. Then every one of our buildings at my school, we have a scoreboard where kids are setting goals for what they're working on in their leadership notebook. And then when they have made progress toward that goal, they get to go put a dot that they decorate up or whatever the scoreboard little icon is. And they get to go up there and put when they have made significant effort. Now, one kid's goal might be totally different than another kid's goal. That's fine. But catch yourself and model apologizing to your own brain. Catch yourself with this fixed mindset, talking about, I'm so sorry, brain. There I am, not believing in myself, okay, I'm gonna give my brain a kiss and celebrate failures, even if they were steps towards a goal. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to celebrate that you punched your brother. That was a step towards emotional regulation. I think you guys, we could all go a little bit too far with this. what if we had effort celebrations instead of just accomplishments? Because that's really effort. What's going to pay off? Because you won the Little League championship when you were in third grade doesn't mean that you're going to do well as an adult. So like effort and hard work and perseverance, that is what's going to pay off in adulthood. Another thing too is a lot of times we want to rescue our kids from struggle. Difficult, challenging tasks are great chances to grow. Create excitement in your kids about this. Man, you're going to make your brains grow. Man, this is awesome, even when they're struggling. Struggle is not the problem. How we do? Oh, and I'll do really quick, Aaron. We'll give myself a 2-minute time over since I lost internet. This other word yet is such a powerful word that we can interrupt things. It's just a tiny word with so much power. When I hear a kid say, I can't do it, I'll be like, yet, yet. There's a whole TED Talk YouTube video that I'm sending you the link to that is the power of yet. Carol DeWitt, I think her name is she did a whole TED Talk on it. And it's really, that little word just creates hope. And then I actually had a student tell me this too. He's like, we were doing our growth mindset lesson. He's like, fail is your first attempt in learning. He had already memorized this as a little third grader in Miss Evans' class. So it was really cool. Power of yet. You can create hope in your kids. It's normal to doubt. It's normal to get frustrated. But if we model this kind of language, it can make a huge difference and help children to catch their fixed mindset. If they're thinking, man, that guy's so smart, he never tries, he just gets it. I got it wrong. I'll never get this. Some kids don't even realize that how they're talking to themselves is a fixed mindset. So challenge those opinions. Use that word yet, but start with empathy. Don't be like, there's nothing more annoying than when you're really struggling with something and someone's like, be positive, believe in yourself. And I'm like, I believe I want to hit you. I mean, that's a very normal feeling to have. Start with empathy. Yeah, it can be really frustrating when you've been working hard on this, can it? And then do that reshaping, change the way you say it. Empathy is a really powerful thing. Empathy means I'm accepting you right where you're at, and I want to encourage you and lift you up. Not, you need to change, you need to do this. So I do want to have you use this growth mindset language with your kids, but when they're kind of stuck in that fixed mindset mode, start off with the empathy, and then you can work in some of that growth mindset language. So just a little reminder, praise effort, not intelligence. Encourage that practice and perseverance. Encourage challenging tasks. They're going to grow those brain cells. Change how you talk about mistakes. Marvelous mistakes. Mistakes are feedback, not failure. Don't shelter your child from a failed task. Start with empathy. I know it's hard to then ask, what can you learn from this? What would you try differently next time? But start with empathy. Encourage family discussions about how our mindset's going, fixed or growth, and what we're using. There's a ton of children's books too, and links that I'll send to you that are great discussion starters. Teach kids to talk back to their inner minds and challenge their own inner voice and really work to grow that growth mindset every day in your language. So that is growth mindset in a nutshell. The presentation will be emailed to you. Erin will do that. And I always send a bunch of extra little links. There's a great Facebook page, Raising Kids with a Growth Mindset. And what I like is sometimes people will do, hey, I've got an 8-year-old that just quits on da 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 da. And then you have all these parents that are part of the forum that they'll send you encouragement. Oh, I found this book and it was really great. It's kind of like the whole idea behind the Oklahoma Family Network. People who are going through a similar struggle, they can give you better advice sometimes than, you going out and finding it on your own. And Big Life Journal is another really cool resource where it's an actual journal that your kids can work through or you can work through as a family. And I'll send all these different things. There's some great books that can be read. But this thing that I love, this is the one with all the little mini videos. So Class Dojo, it has for growth mindset. There's 9 little videos, secrets about the brain, the magic of mistakes, the incredible power of yet, the mysterious world of neurons. It's literally teaching kids about their brain in the context of a growth mindset. So you'll get all those links and make it easy for you. And always recommend look on the Oklahoma Family Network. They have all their events coming up. And then maybe I will see you back in October for sibling rivalry. It's a good book. It's a good one.